like everyone else, I have my fears and insecurities. But all of the inner work I did was to help me get through this the best I could. And honestly, that oftentimes means keeping big parts of myself to myself.
Then what does emotional strength look like then for the man in the workplace?
Keeping yourself in line with the societal/social expectations that exist, and those change every day.
Welcome everybody. So we are at our third and final episode for Unspoken. I'm really excited. We have someone who, despite what he says, I truly respect, who's in the industry, working as a senior associate at one of the big law firms in the country. And I mean, you'll tell from his personality, very stuck up, very serious, but I'll let him show you that side to him. Everybody give a round of applause to Ukanyo Mabandla.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, no, had a long week, had a long life, but you know, we're here.
You're here now.
Very grateful.
No, don't worry. This is going to be the highlight of your week. You're going to have a good time.
Thank you.
Speaking to me about masculinity, reimagined. And yeah, I know you're a lawyer, so every second counts.
Yeah, no disclaimers up front. No like, hey guys, by the way, you can't use this against us. No.
Okay, no. It's a free space and no judgment zone.
No, got you.
So Ukanyo, before we start, I'd like to play a little game with all my guests. And I think since you're my guest today, we'll start off with the same game. So it's called The Streets Are Saying.
Okay, got you.
So I start off by giving you a statement that's saying the streets are saying, and then you can only respond by saying I confirm or I deny. You cannot justify, you can't give us a story.
You did not have lawyers in mind when you set out this game. You did.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Got you. And I can't keep quiet?
No, you can't.
Okay, got you.
Hey, lawyers always finding a loophole. No, you can't keep quiet. Okay, so, Ukanyo, the streets are saying you are very strict in the office, but your colleagues still like you because you're the office clown.
What are my options again?
I confirm or I deny.
I confirm.
Okay, perfect. Okay, because that's what I heard as well. So, the streets are saying you love hockey more than you love the law.
I confirm.
Yeah, I've seen the passion in those hockey under 18 pictures. What I saw at Bowman's in the office, you're like, ugh.
I mean, it's past life, right? I'm washed up now. And that's what happens with old age. But both of those things hold a special place in my heart and have played a significant role in where I am today. So it's hard to delineate parts of yourself. It feels like choosing between children. But I guess so.
Yeah. So the third and final, okay. The streets are saying you know that you're good at your job, but you get insanely intimidated when working with bankers.
I deny. One.
No.
One, surely you can't ask questions that directly implicate you.
Oh, come on.
But
no.
I categorically deny.
Okay, bankers don't make you feel uncomfortable. You're not like, yet another all parties call with these super smart people.
Everyone makes me feel uncomfortable. I think the call of duty is such that inevitably when someone pays the amount of money they pay for any working professional's time, there's a real duty on you to show up as your best self. And I'd call a person a liar or say that they don't care about their job overall if they didn't feel some level of anxiety and nervousness. But I truly believe that being good at your job is an incredibly reaffirming thing. Yeah. And I'm not sure that I feel that every day. In fact, I can count on one hand the days I felt I was good at it, and that's totally okay, right?
Yeah, that's still fine.
Yeah.
Fair point. Okay. No, thanks for playing this little game for us. But I think I'll still give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to our audience, to say who is Ukanyo.
My name's Ukanyo Mabandla. I kind of grown up in Joburg, lived here my whole life. I've walked the path that I think most people walk. I've got nothing incredible, nothing special to say about my story. I think where I've landed up is undoubtedly a function of opportunity and luck. I have no doubts that anyone put in my position kind of sort of ends up here. I'm under no illusions about the sort of things that have led to this place and this time. And so, yeah, I'm more than happy to be here. Very excited to talk to you.
Tell.
I can't tell why you asked me to do it. Like, you must have been scraping.
Yeah, I
like,
had
was
no
the
one
18
else.
busy?
I was just like, you know what, who can we
Yeah.
put in, you know?
Yeah, I've lucked into a lot of opportunities that way, so I don't feel bad about that at all. But yeah, I'm sure some of it comes out as we go through some of the things we're going to be discussing
Yeah.
today. But yeah, that's really it from me. I'm just a guy's guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone, we will be speaking about masculinity reimagined with Ukanyo. I think, all jokes aside, one of the reasons why I invited Ukanyo on the show is because he's your typical, I'll say, like, high achieving guy's guy, you know, loved by the teachers. He's a person who I think people are like, oh, okay, cool. Do you know Ukanyo? Okay, cool. I know that guy. And I think even post that, you've done exceptionally well for yourself. You are working in a great law firm. And I mean, I can say that because on all parties' calls, you know, your firm is one of the ones that we work with quite often, and we choose who we work with in some of these things. So to know that you're a part of that firm and to know that you're a senior associate, I know it's not a journey that came easily. So that's to say, fine, you can take the super humble approach, but trust me, guys, he's earned his stripes. In starting our conversations, let me start off by saying, you know, what were you taught about masculinity growing up, and how do you think that definition has changed over time?
I think as it relates to masculinity, my journey is a bit of an interesting one. I started out at boarding school at 13, 14 years old. And so most of the lessons I learned and the ideas I have in my head about manhood and masculinity were encouraged, built up by, taught by other boys who come from a bunch of different backgrounds. And if I'm being fair, I'm not entirely sure qualified to be teaching those lessons. And so, yes, I very much appreciate that some of these things may not be what you typically expect a masculine senior figure, being a father or otherwise, to teach a person in my sort of position. But there were a couple of things that we held tight to as principles, and a couple of things I hold tight to this day, in spite of, you know, the changing socioeconomic circumstances and background that we encounter on a day-to-day. So starting from the top, and I'll try to keep it just to 3 things. The very first thing that I thought typified or exemplified the type of guy and the type of man I wanted to be, not only to the people I lived with, but the people I interacted with on a day-to-day, was the type of person who held integrity incredibly highly. And what do I mean by integrity? It's quite simply the idea that you will maintain your behaviors, you will maintain your actions, not just when other people are not watching, but actually the definition of integrity relates to maintaining those things about yourself in situations of immense or otherwise compromising pressure, and having to show up as what you really are in difficult times, repeatedly every day. And in the course of your own changing journey, I figure the adolescence journey is testing for everyone. But that really taught you some things about how you wanted to present yourself, and about what are the things you held as integral to your personality. The second thing that I think we held dear to was we kind of appreciated that not all of us are going to be good at all things. Not all of us are going to get all of the things that we wanted to get, whether that was out of the school journey or out of any other endeavor in life. But a thing that we valued as amongst each other and as amongst ourselves was honesty. And when I say honesty, I think what I really mean is honesty of endeavor. So you don't watch any football, as you've said, but a coach, former coach of Sundowns, Rantseuoa, used to start out his interviews by pointing out that what he likes most about Sundowns at the time is that these are honest boys. And being honest in the professional context means that you cannot just show up when you're motivated. You cannot just show up when it's convenient, when it's suitable, when it works. but that showing up every day is something that you will try to do as your best self. And that honesty of endeavor, I think, was a key teaching of my early childhood. And something that we held dear as a key aspect of masculinity. The third thing that I think we held really dear was that it is better to be together in failure and in success, but especially failure, than it is to be alone in either one of those permutations. And so a great part of the learnings that we got was there's this idea that masculinity, or guys, are inherently people who strive to stand alone at the top, whether that is in the context of leadership or in the context of what have you. But one of the most guy traits I've found is that guys want to be amongst each other. They want to be with each other. And that entails good behaviors, contributing, keeping yourself in line with the societal/social expectations that exist. And those change every day. And so, yeah, I mean, there were a bunch of other things. I don't want to paint it as all sunshine and rainbows.
No, I actually
there were a
want to
bunch
get
of
to that
other
point.
teachings too.
But that's where I actually wanted to come in, because I was like, this sounds like a very nuanced, very reformed, way of portraying masculinity, which I actually don't think is that widespread. And having gone to a boys' school, I actually would have expected the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, boys' schools have their challenges, and I think those are well documented. But one of the things that come with inherent discriminations is that you're going to be discriminating against one of the people you call, quote unquote, your brothers, one of the people that are standing up for you, standing with you, whether that be in the context of classrooms, sports fields, fights, what have you. And so I found that discrimination on the basis of anything, whether that was the idea that, some people have really nice cars, clothes, etc., or discrimination on the basis that some people don't have that, or some people prefer a certain type of person, became a very hard position to hold if you were sincere in calling the people around you your brothers, or if you were sincere about accepting and living with those people without holding on to any form of prejudice. It was hard to hold those two ideas in your head. And I'm not saying it couldn't be done. Lots of people proved that it very much could be done.
Yeah.
But as a starting point and as a point of departure, if you're going to live in and around 700 other boys, it will teach you a lot about accepting people as they are. And so nuance is not something that I think is foreign or unfamiliar to people in boarding schools, but in particular boys' boarding schools, because, oh man, those kids are different.
Yeah, I would have
boys are
expected that. Even though, you lived all these ethics, and I guess as I said, the more reformed and healthier manifestation of masculinity, was there a time where you're like, no, I'm actually quite toxic?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the things that we became toxic about changed over time. I genuinely feel that we were lucky that in my experience of not just the boys' school I was in, but the boys' schools that I encountered, most of the things that they tended to be toxic about were things that they could change or people could change about themselves. Okay. But for example, if you created the idea or perception in people's minds that you were someone who was unreliable, who would flake out, who would not show up in situations of need or prioritize themselves over the group dynamic, those things sort of stuck with you. And I don't know if you know anything about teenagers in general, but teenage boys in particular are capable of holding on to a thing and are capable of being incredibly vindictive. And I think even in spite of how small a thing may have been, it can outlive the instance that it did. Yeah. And I also appreciate that for a person who's been painted with a certain type of brush, it's very hard to overcome those things. I do also think that we did an incredibly bad job of correcting ourselves and each other about the aspects of our conversations, of our thinkings, of our, dealings with people that were particularly harmful. And that, contrary to popular belief, was against women, but not just against women. The things that people said, thought, did, in relation to their parents, their cousins, their families. Those aren't, a boys' school, a school, like anything else, is a microcosm of the society in which it exists.
Absolutely.
And we weren't immune to the realities of South Africa, whether those were racial, financial, etc., other prejudices, and we certainly weren't immune to the typical things that we see men perpetrate against women and vulnerable people in general.
Yeah.
I would be lying to you if I said those things didn't exist, but for the most part and by and large, I truly believe that in the main and on the whole, the people who schooled at the time that I schooled were trying to do right by each other and trying to do right for each other. And I found that to be an incredibly redeeming quality, even in spite of...
of everything else.
Yeah.
So in a situation like that, you mentioned it's boys' school, 700 students. For the most part, there is a lot of groupthink in that space. There's a lot of, everyone is starting from the same point of departure, I think, as you had mentioned. So who is calling out who? Like, at what point do you then change and say, okay, no, guys, I think the way that we're speaking about women, the way that we are, the views that we have about our parents, our mothers, it's not helpful. It's actually very harmful. Who was doing that calling out? Especially because the environment, by and large, is made up of the same kind of thinking, right?
Life is a great teacher, but I can't point to anyone in particular who was pointing out or calling out those sort of things. We encouraged, and we encourage to this day, direct conflict and calling people out when you have a problem with them as an individual. But calling out a school of thinking, calling out a toxic character trait that exists amongst ourselves required a level of introspection and thought that I'm not honestly sure we were, one, capable of, or two, privy to. And I think a lot of the things that had to be unlearned were unlearned by each individual, and life taught them what they needed to know as they went through whatever they were going through. It would be very disingenuous for me at this stage, looking back, to say with any form of sincerity that
it was that one person,
or that the space encouraged or allowed things of that nature.
And what was your specific turning point?
Yeah, I'm very much a fit-in type of person. I like a sense of community. I like harmony. I like peace. I'm a consensus seeker by nature, which explains my line of work, I guess. And so I think the turning point happens a little bit every day. But I think the sincere turning point was about, midway through my third year of varsity, when you come to the realization and the appreciation that you are going to have to build a life for yourself that exists amongst many different people, different schools of thought, diversity of thought, different schools of upbringing, and what have you. And so the shift happened a little bit every day, but I think the point in time where I can say I was a fundamentally very different person than what I was in sort of high school was towards the middle of that third year of varsity. And I think a lot of that was influenced by a particular person. We'll be forever grateful to her. She kind of didn't volunteer to teach those lessons, but was forced to. And here we are.
So now, moving out of that third year experience into the workplace, I get the sense that at that point you were at least a lot more open to the idea of vulnerability, a lot more open to the idea of nuance. But I just want to know that in this context of work, it's not like you're working into a place where everyone has done that inner work, or everyone has done that has walked that journey. So was there a time where it felt a bit difficult for you to, or let me say it felt unsafe rather, to be vulnerable?
I think that's a bit of a difficult one, because I'm not entirely sure that the workspace is the space for that type of thing. And let me preface that with a couple of things. I have found inevitably that when I have encountered problems in the workplace, it was because people struggle to, or forgot to keep the main thing the main thing.
thing.
Yeah, this is a robust approach and aggressive and a little bit abrasive, but being a professional, to me certainly, oftentimes means leaving the parts of yourself that are capable of taking offense to a side comment by a colleague. Oftentimes means accepting that the person you're across the table from and negotiating with holds prejudice against you about something you've got no control over. But all of the solutions that I have found easiest involve decentralizing yourself and prioritizing the main thing. So I've encountered plenty spaces, as we all have, in the workplace and otherwise, that didn't feel safe, didn't feel right to be myself emotionally. And to be fair, I don't entirely begrudge corporate for that. It is what it is. And my main thing is not the same as Mamello's main thing, will not be the same as anyone else's main thing. Keeping those things separate and keeping those parts of yourself, your corporate persona and your personal persona apart, is helpful in certain instances, but there are definitely other instances where I think it's clear to everyone that, you know, the Rubicon has been crossed and you should or and entitled to feel emotional about something. But for the most part, for me, from a personal experience, I haven't encountered too many spaces where I felt unsafe emotionally. Did I encounter spaces where I didn't feel accepted? Didn't feel I could show up as myself? Absolutely. And I think in reality, going through life, that's just about par for the course. You're going to encounter a ton of spaces where they aren't for you.
But you've introduced a very interesting dynamic, because you're basically saying that you subscribe to the way of thinking where you're not saying that vulnerability is not, there's no place for vulnerability in the workplace, but you are saying that part of being a professional is having that ability to say, okay, maybe that is a part of me that I need to leave at home. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not leave at home, but I need to place my priorities in order. And I wish I had better examples than sport in general. If you reacted to everything a competitor said to you, that would put you in a terrible spot. If you reacted to every bad decision you got from things that were out of your control, the referees, the people that are watching on the side, that puts you in an incredibly difficult spot. And I am not sure that I've encountered anyone who actually wants to be compromised in the workplace much more than they do. Is there a call to be sensitive in the workplace? Is there a call to be understanding, to be empathetic, and to take seriously the emotions of the people you encounter? Absolutely, and I encourage us all to do that. But what I am cautioning against is making something that's not the main thing the main thing. So react how it's appropriate to offense, react how it's appropriate to issues you encounter in the workplace. And those are the things we need to change, those spaces. And I know that to be true without a doubt. But I also encourage people to think deeply about, why am I here? What is it I seek to achieve? What is there to be gained by my reactions, emotional or otherwise? And oftentimes, except egregious things, and I think we're all pretty clear on what those egregious things are, I think you will comfortably find that for the most part, I can let this go. There's something more important, and whether that's getting the deal done, it's getting off of this call, getting through this issue, you'll make that decision every day, and no one will need to teach you, no one will need to explain to you that this was the right decision in that instance or the wrong one. You'll know it intuitively, and if you get that wrong, you'll know it pretty soon thereafter too.
Then how do you build rapport then, in the absence of vulnerability, and I guess in the absence of, because people bond over that. They bond over that on that transaction. Did you see that person did that, and can you believe this person spoke like this to me? So I'm almost thinking, doesn't that further alienate, the man in the workplace?
I fully agree that a key component of relationship building is this idea that someone feels not just that they can be vulnerable with you, but that they can trust you to be human. They don't need to feel like you can relate to the fact that their dog died, but they do need to feel that you will have an empathetic reaction to that. My simple response to that is that different strokes for different folks. For the most part, you will have a group of people that you'll identify pretty quickly are my friends and are looking for vulnerability from me.
Sure.
But your rapport is built by a couple of other things, which, to be frank, are equally important. And not to harp back on the things that I spoke to sort of initially, your honesty of endeavor, your integrity, people feeling like they can rely on you, those things will build relationships and rapport much faster than gossiping about a said client, a said banker will. And mind you, when people leave your space, even if they don't know much about you, they know what impression you left them with and how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And if what you made them feel was that you are, one, a professional, two, take this seriously, and three, are about advancing yourself in ways that are meaningful, in ways that contribute towards getting the deal done, towards advancing the financial pursuits that come in this life, that will be the relationship building exercise. And make friends in the workplace, but keep the main thing the main thing.
No, I love that. I love that so much, because I think you made me think of even just like how clients perceive us. You know, at the end of the day, a client who's dealing with some corporate action is not looking for a buddy, you know, at least in our context. You know, for you guys, they're looking for legal advice. For us, they're looking for financial. So it's kind of like how you engender that trust and that relationship with them is just showing them that I'm about the business. I care about what you care about, and I'm committed, you know, to getting a solution for you. You know, so I love the fact that you are saying that that way of building relationships is as perfectly legitimate as, I guess, maybe the softer stuff that people generally fall into, which is maybe the gossiping, you know, the tea break, quick chatter, which it's fine. It's a whole different conversation, but thanks for bringing in that angle. So having said that, you know, because it still comes across as though staunch men, we hear about the business. No, which is not a problem. It's not a problem.
I'm being misrepresented.
It's really not, because I think maybe then this question will clarify. Then what does emotional strength look like then for the man in the workplace?
I worry about things like this because I don't truly believe I speak on behalf of men or all men in general, but from a personal perspective, what that looks like to me is actual emotional security. And that means I can go to bed confident that despite provocation, you will not have an undue reaction, which will not only cost me my livelihood in the case of a partnership, which is what some law firms are. But in the case of client relationships, I've gone to great lengths to build up, right? Like, it's a hard one.
Yeah,
it's very much a hard one. But the emotional security, I need you to be the type of person that I can count on. And I can't overstate how, if that is the foundation of every interaction that people have with you in the corporate space, I think that leaves you in a good spot. And on some days that will mean that in spite of the fact that you feel terrible, you showed up as your best self. In spite of the fact that you were under the weather, you were low energy, you put your back into it and strengthened your back, sweated it out and just got it done. And on other days that will mean that you know, didn't react to provocation from a client who was leading you down that path, from a banker who was antagonizing you. Emotional security and just being sure that, one, I can trust you to react in a way that's sane and has some semblance of normality. But two, that I can trust that should we get to the time and the place where the human elements, the human aspect of you do come out, it is not, one, undue, but two, something that will jeopardize what we are here to do.
Which is to
and so, my sort of just being secure and comfortable in yourself, whether you're being antagonized, whether you're being poked, whether you're being questioned, whether you're lending a helping hand, giving a shoulder to cry on, empathizing with someone. Try and try and try, Majida, please. Try and try and try. Be normal and try to keep yourself towards yourself.
No, I totally hear that. So let me give you an example, which I think is actually very near to what I think is your normal lived experience. Because no, because bankers and lawyers, I think, have some of the worst working hours. So you're not always the most regulated version of yourself, because you're running off of, let's say, 3-4 hours of sleep, or sometimes you even cross-knighted, right? You have very tough stakeholders. The standard of perfection that is required in banking, I think it's the same in law, in that if it's not perfect, it's wrong. 98%
In
is
every
not...
service industry, right?
Yeah, it's not good enough. So in a situation like that, you're also not in a place where it takes a lot to be provoked. I can just say, Ukanyo, like, you shouldn't have sent this to the client. And maybe like the way in which I said it was very dismissive.
But you know how you're saying it also.
No,
I
but
feel like
the
you're
thing
talking
is-
a lived experience.
But what I'm trying to say is that in the workplace, that's
Yeah.
just how it manifests, right? It's a thing
Yeah.
of like, but how do you not know this? I mean, in banking happens a lot. You're an associate now. This is an unacceptable mistake. There's a certain mistake you just cannot do given your level. So in a situation like that, do you think things like crashing out, sending a hot email, it's because that's still human interaction. That's how you feel. And the thing is, I think there's a lot more. I'm not saying that if a woman does it in the workplace, it will be, oh, it's fine, it's a girl. But I find that with women, we expect emotional responses. But when a man crashes out, I know with the last crash out I witnessed, and we were like, what?
Did he throw something?
No.
It's not really a crash out.
No. I mean, emails were sent. People were called to the side into boardrooms.
Got you.
So-
No, I've got you, and I think I've got where your question is going. From my perspective, everything is a part of the learning, and everything matters. And so where you do fall short of your own expectations, where you do fall short of a behavior that you wanted for yourself or that others expected of you, that's part of the learning. And you will make those mistakes. And if you haven't made them yet, you will make them in the future. And oftentimes you will learn from them, and sometimes life is going to have to teach you those things again.
Yeah.
I can't say anything to that except to say you're going to have to roll with the punches, and
Yeah.
all of your actions have reactions, all of your actions have consequences. You're going to live with them and you're going to be just fine. And that's a lesson life teaches us all. My crash out is probably on the way.
True.
And so I'll let you know when I get there.
And be
then-
like, Mamello, I get you now.
No. 100% worth it, or yikes.
True.
Should have held on to that one.
Okay.
And for young people, young black people, whether you're a man or a woman, know that you will get that wrong. And after you get that wrong, you'll get it wrong again. And for the most part, that will be fine.
Sure.
Because you'll get to where you're going.
I can live with that. So I want to, I've had a couple of conversations with other men, and the issue around financial pressure, the provision element of things. It's like it's your thing.
We're here now.
No, we're here now. I mean, men love that whole idea that I've got it, I'm good. But I find that in our relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's family, what is this whole thing of thinking that your ability to, give yourself financially is the same as emotional presence?
I mean, money is the great equalizer.
Okay.
If you're a short person, get a little bit of money.
It will
see what
sort
that
you
does
out.
for you. If you're a terrible person, get a little bit of money. See how many people stick around. Money is the great equalizer.
Yeah.
And I think, by and large, all of us have things about ourselves we want to work on and things about ourselves we're not happy about. That's true for men, women, children, everyone.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
When you ask, why is money such a big deal? Why do people, particular men, think that money will cover up for all of the things that they fall short of? It is incredibly hard and an enormous endeavor to overcome a deficit of resources. So even starting at the beginning, the idea of romance actually originated, they say, in Roman times. And even back then, there was a concept that if you wanted to marry someone, it was a transaction. It was transactional. Someone in your family found a good or better family to marry you into.
Yeah.
And that built up both of your families. And as you go across generations, hypergamy exists,
Yes, I was just
etc.,
about to say.
etc. And so people who came from lesser backgrounds had to find ways to impress and woo women. That's where the ideas of putting your coat down on the floor so that she can step on it, saying sweet nothings, whispering them in her ear, bringing her flowers, which you could pick ostensibly on the side of the road. Romance was an idea that exists to overcome money. In this day and age, and with all the things that we have to work towards and work to overcome, has money become a central point? for men in the workplace, for men in romantic settings, for men in all other settings, it has. Can I blame them? I can't, because the alternative to that is working incredibly hard. Are people willing to do that? Some, I guess. But the easy solution is make a little bit of money and see what changes in your life. Yeah.
But do you think it's a one? I mean, I know logically we know that it's not a one-to-one replacement for emotional presence, but why do you guys think that if you just get her flowers, if you treat her good, that, and I think it's actually a very pertinent question, because your job is so demanding on your time. You're extremely time poor. So why is it that maybe it's not?
I'm also just poor.
Oh, okay. We can't.
Just poor.
Are we still playing the confirm or deny game?
Poor.
But I'm just saying that I can imagine that maybe even at times it's easier for you to give a gift than it is to give someone your time.
Absolutely. And to be fair, the two of the most expensive things in the world are the truth and time, right? So the truth, whether that's accuracy of information, etc., those are things people pay an extraordinary amount of money for. Your boss believes and understands that you will show up to work every day, which is why you make your exorbitant salary every month.
Is that what they say?
It's too short. But the second part of that is time. And I appreciate that in my business we sell time, and so that makes it particularly difficult to make money. But I don't think it's a one-to-one, and this is an incredibly difficult question to answer. Why is it the case? We're all a victim of the society in which we exist. All of us want to make things better for the people that we're around and the people we hold dear. I think that's true for men and women. I think that men make a particular point of replacing all the other aspects in which they could be present with money. Why do they do that? We live where we live, right? And the realities that we live in, especially in a third world country with the socioeconomic circumstances that most young black people grow up in, mean that it will be what it is. But I encourage everyone to find the things they prioritize, find the things they hold dear, and find the things they think are important, and to throw everything at it: money, time, romance, whatever. Please. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer to that one. We're a victim of our circumstances, but so is everyone else.
Yeah. No, and I think I can appreciate the fact that you're not coming to give some perfect response. Like you're grounding a lot of what you're saying and just saying this is the reality.
What did the other guy say?
No, it's not about that. We're here on your perspective.
Sure. Gotcha.
Okay, so as a result of your efforts in trying to be a better man, being a lot more nuanced, I think you mentioned that. I think it's even in high school where you realize that you're going to come across all these different people, and if you want to live peaceably, you sort of have to be more accepting. That's inner work that you've done, and I just am keen to understand that professionally, personally, has that in any way deepened the relationships that you now have?
To be fair, I think it's done the opposite.
What?
What it has done for me is it's shown me that the things I hold dear and the things I hold sacred, I really want to keep for the people I hold dear and the people I think are sacred. And so this is not the intention behind any form of inner work, but what it very, very much taught me was that all of the things that exist outside of your control and outside of your environment will hurt, hamper, improve your circumstances on a day-to-day. But the things you have done to better yourself and to keep yourself as close to the center as you can, you will find are best spent on the people closest to you. And so, if anything, the inner work that I have done has meant that even in spite of what my personality appears to be outwardly, I'm actually a very cagey personality and very reclusive. And it's very hard to get information out of me, especially about me. And I think that's a selfish endeavor. And I think that is definitely a coping mechanism because, like everyone else, I have my fears and insecurities. But all of the inner work I did was to help me get through this the best I could. And honestly, that oftentimes means keeping big parts of myself to myself and trying to prioritize making sure that for the parts that you pay for, if you're my employer, or for the parts that are appropriate for you to encounter, If you're my colleagues, you do encounter. But for all the rest of it,
Ukanya, that's the best answer you've given me on this whole episode.
wow.
Like, we could scratch everything else out. That was moment of vulnerability, of openness. I'm there like, wow. No, thanks for that. Okay, and
You're doing all this emotional work just to give it to everyone else.
You know what? I'm a very generous person. I'm very open and liberal like that.
Tough.
Okay, and do you think though that especially where we are, because I don't even want to talk about our parents' generation. That's a whole different.
Let's write those people off.
Yeah, let's write them off.
And vote them out of parliament, please. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest.
No,
please.
and don't edit that one out.
Oh, wow. Rikhateti, guys, please.
No, we're not even talking about them. I want to know, in terms of our generation, do you think where masculinity is, it's at a decent state? Like, do you think it's something that a woman can work with? You know, and I'm not even necessarily even talking romantic. I'm even talking in the workplace. If you were to come across and the average guy who's done a little bit of the work, do you think it's at an acceptable level, or there's still a lot of work to be done?
I think without a doubt, this is a better time to encounter a man than there has been at any other time throughout history. Unfortunately, the realities of our country are what they are, and I have converging thoughts about the real state of our country vis-a-vis the state of the world. But conservative thought and conservative thoughts in general come and go in cycles. So as you can see, I guess in the West currently, there's a real drive and a real push for conservatism, which is why the President of the United States succeeds with the policies he succeeds, etc., etc. So I have no doubts that even with masculinity and dealing with men, it will fluctuate. But I would struggle to believe anyone who tried to push the idea that this isn't the best place men have been throughout history. We've got to accept that dealing with men is difficult at the best of times, but I think that's true for women too.
Is it?
Oh, what?
Maybe in a different podcast or show, guys. Not on this platform.
No,
so men are difficult. Yes, you're on the right track.
I've got you. And
I'm joking.
Dealing with people is difficult.
Yeah, true.
But I truly believe that, by and large, South Africa and the rest of the world, vis-a-vis men, is better off than we've been in our history. But I don't think that's a good spot. I don't think that's an easy spot. And I would be lying if I ignored our rape statistics, our crime statistics, all the things that are perpetuated primarily by men, including GBV, or just normal societal harms. You can't go jogging this evening if that's something you were keen to do or want to do in the ordinary course. And that by and large is as a result of men, is a result of a couple of other things, including poverty, socioeconomic circumstances. Inevitably, crimes are perpetuated by the people that are closest to you. More white people kill white people than any other people. More black people, black men commit crimes, etc., towards black women, black children than anyone else. It's just statistically how it's going to work. But we're coming along. And I don't think anyone can say in sincerity that the conversations men are having now, whether it's amongst themselves or on platforms where they have a voice, an opportunity to influence, are not better than what they were 10 years ago. I would struggle to believe someone who said that, but each to their own, I guess.
No, thanks. I think just my second last question. For any man who is looking to start doing the work, so they're hearing you speak and they're like, you know what, this guy's got nuance. I don't agree, but I also know that, there's just work that I need to do. Where do they start?
Do you have money? If you have money, go see a therapist. They will help you. But for the average person, the relationship building exercise or the relationship muscle is in fact a muscle. You want to do inner work to get better, to be around and to be with other people. You will start inevitably with the people that are closest to you. So if you're looking to do inner work, the person that's most likely able to point out the aspects of your personality that need work are the people that you encounter on a day-to-day. If that is your parents, starting by being a better person for and towards them is where the inner work starts. And you'll build it outward and you'll work on it every day and you'll get better at it a little bit every day. But it is quite simply the idea that I exist in a community and exist in a society. And once I've decided that the role I want to play is as a contributing member of this community, this society, I think the rest of the decisions are pretty easy from then on out, because people will help you along the way. And those are people you'll encounter in the workplace, those are people you'll encounter at home. But as far as the inner work starts, just being a better person to the next closest person you have to you is inevitably where all inner work starts. After that, I hope you make enough money for therapy, because you're going to need it.
True. And I think I can appreciate the fact that your guidance is actually so practical. Like, you don't even have to speak to the person that's closest to you right now. What is their feedback? How are they experiencing you? Because I think to your point, they'll be able to touch on, this is where you're being toxic, this is where I think you're being unfair. And I guess that's where the work starts, because it's not about understanding all these terms, it's about actually changing your behaviors, So thanks for that. So my last question to you, and I'm going to anchor it in what you shared earlier on about how, the work started for you in third year in uni. You were roughly 21 at that time. So given where you are now, what would you tell 21-year-old Ukanyo about manhood, and I guess what he would need to work on in order to be the man that you are today?
The very first thing I would try to emphasize to myself, especially at that place and that time in my life, is that this journey is long, it is brutal, and a lot of it sucks. I was, at that stage of my life, someone who was very allergic and very fearful of failure. And that showed itself in everything that I did, including the way I competed. I didn't compete like someone who was trying to win. I often competed as someone who was avoiding losing. I would encourage myself to accept that the failures are on their way, that the failures are plentiful, and that you will recover from every single one of them, just like you've overcome every bad day you've had up to this point. I would encourage them to keep the people that are closest to them in their thoughts, in their hearts, in their minds, in their prayers every single day. And I would encourage him to be unrelenting and fearless in their pursuit of even the most meaningless endeavors. And I guess lastly, celebrate everything. I've been lucky enough, I guess, to make it to this point without meaningful loss or significant issues when looking at the people around me and the way life goes, whether that's by luck, whether that's by direct cause and effect, or whether that's just how the cookie crumbled. Passing a test, scoring a goal, making it to where you were driving to safely. Celebrate everything.
Honestly, I just want to say thank you. At least in my experience of the conversation as we were speaking, and it's perfect for this show because we're speaking about men. If I was speaking to a girl, we would have most probably gone like deep from the first conversation. That's just how women are, or at least the average woman, We're very open, let's talk about the deep, darkest thing without even knowing each other. It's a gift of us, okay? And with this conversation, I noticed that it was so different because I felt, at one moment I almost had to say, okay, how do I position what I want to ask in a way that this lawyer can stop speaking in all these platitudes and all these perfectly packaged answers, which I know you can do because you read a lot and because that's what you do. You put things in a way.
That's just how I speak.
No, the law has had its impact. But I'm just saying, I think as the conversation progressed, I felt so much of your heart. I felt so much of your sincerity and your openness come through. And the reason I'm even pointing that out is basically to also speak to men that are watching us, to basically say that it's okay if in conversation with someone, you don't immediately say, hey, Mamello, this is who I am. I actually think it's prudent. Is prudent the right word? Thank you. Not a lawyer, but...
Depends on what the next part
okay,
of your sentence
is. No, stop. But essentially, I think it's the right, not DD, but you're taking your time and you're feeling it out. And it's something that I think I'm even taking as a lesson for myself, to say that it's okay to naturally be an open person, but feel people out first. Don't, I guess, be unnecessarily, or your openness must be earned, essentially. And I feel that in our conversation, I got that sense of small, we were progressing. But thank you so much for being willing to speak, for sharing the lessons that you did. I know that it will be valuable for even one person. It most certainly has been valuable to me. And yeah, thank you for your time as well.
No, I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Perfect. So everyone, that marks the end of episode 3. I'm really so touched, honestly, I think as I've mentioned, at Ukanyo's openness around masculinity, how we're reimagining that, I even feel that I even learned a lot from even how he showed up in terms of masculinity, like where we are in our society. So thank you so much to our guests, and thank you for watching. But that marks the end of episode 3 with Ukanyo Mabandla on Unspoken with Mamello Rantseuoa.